What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan here for Sherdog.com, back with another edition of the Sheehan Show. And today, what I've come on to talk about is the UFC's lightweight division. I think we're at a stage now, just after the title fight happened in the last pay-per-view of the year, where everything is in a little bit of flux. You know, there aren't many matches made. There isn't much, you know, which we kind of see as known at the moment. And I feel like there's a lot of matches to be made. You know, what's going to happen with the champion? Who's going to be the next challenger? Is it going to be Justin Gaethje? Are they going to wait for the winner of Makhachev and Dariush? What way is it going to be? You know, I think a lot of people are really, you know, really perplexed by this division in terms of what's going to happen next. So I thought I'd just come on here and maybe give it a little bit of clarity, or see exactly, you know, where we're going with it and where it should go, maybe, and where I think maybe it will go. So let's do that, and let's start, I suppose, with that fight between Dariush and Makhachev, because if you look at the rankings here, and I'll just pull them up. So as we are here right now in the latter half of December, the rankings right now have just moved from Poirier down to number 2, with Justin Gaethje going at number 1. Obviously, we know the champion is Charles Oliveria. So Oliveira, Gaethje, Poirier. Then Dariush is number 3. Something which I think people kind of forget. And I want to talk about Beneil Dariush first, but I'm going to run through the rest of the rankings for a second. Then Makhachev is number 4, or Makhachev. I always pronounce his name wrong. I don't know what the right pronunciation is. I can't even pronounce the word pronunciation. Then we've Chandler, number 5 after that. Then Rafael Dos Anjos, another guy we kind of forget maybe in that picture. Then Tony Ferguson. Dan Hooker's after that, but he's gone down to featherweight, so we can rule him out for a second. And then we've Conor McGregor. So those are the guys I'm going to look at here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys I'm going to look at, the champion and the top 8 in that division. So, first of all, Beneil Dariush, right? I feel like at the number 3 ranked position, when Gaethje has lost for the title and has, let me just look at it, 1 fight since against Michael Chandler in a full year after losing, you know, I don't know what descriptive word to use here, but I think it was a horrific display against Khabib Nurmagomedov on the ground. I just think he showed too many deficiencies in that fight to get like an almost immediate rematch after only 1 victory over Michael Chandler. All right, so let's park that for a second. He lost to Khabib for the title. Okay, we have a new champion now, so we can discuss that again in a second. Dustin Poirier obviously just lost to Charles Oliveria. And then the next guy is Beneil Dariush, right? And if you look at Beneil Dariush, he has won, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row in that lightweight division. Now, okay, he beat Tony Ferguson, and that was back in May of last year. We know where Tony Ferguson is right now. Okay, he lost to Oliveira, who's the champion, and Gaethje before that, 2 very good fighters, but he still won that fight. He beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, who is ranked number 12 right now at the moment. He beat Scott Holtzman, Drakkar Klose, Frank Camacho, Drew Dober, who was ranked at the time maybe, or became ranked after it, and Thiago Moises as well, who's a very, very good fighter. So he has all those wins in a row. And I feel like in a division like lightweight, for the guys on the way up, and you know, you could argue the same with Makhachev, we'll get to Makhachev in a second, but I feel like we need to move on a little bit quicker than we do. I feel like there's too much of this, like, you lose a title fight, you're straight back in. You lose a title fight, win 1, you're straight back in. And not to take away from Justin Gaethje as a good fighter, or Dustin Poirier as a good fighter, or McGregor as a good fighter, or Ferguson as a good fighter, whoever it might be. I just feel like there are so many good fighters in that division that we need to give the next opportunity to the next guy. And a lot of divisions, I often argue for, like, maybe not making the fight between number 2 and number 4, or number 3 and number 5, or whatever it might be, to decide who the next challenger for the champion is, just because you're knocking off the next contender. I'd maybe rather put number 3 against number 7 maybe, and number 4 against number 9 or something like that, and then tough matchup, earn your way to the top, but then fight for the top, and then number 3 fights for the top after that win, number 4 fights for the top thing after his win. In the lightweight picture, you can't do that. You can throw all of that out the window. You can do that in heavyweight, you know. Bring Aspinall up slowly to fight for title. Bring Dawkins up slowly to fight for title. Avoid them. Do the same for, Gaethje. Obviously, they've done it very well with him. No problem. At lightweight, there's too many guys. There's more coming. The likes of Gamrot coming up as well. The likes of McGregor on his way back. We'll talk about him in a second. But Fiziev, Fahea, who I mentioned, Saryukin, Riddell, Joel Alvarez had some great performances, although missing weight over the last while. These guys are coming. And in the lightweight division, guys who win fights like this in a row, they're really, really good. And they deserve it. Because if they had... if they weren't good, they would be losing these fights. And make no mistake about that, because this is a division where the 10th, 11th, 12th ranked guy in this division is better than the 3, 4, 5 in most divisions, whether you're looking at middleweight or heavyweight or, the women's flyweight division maybe, or even the flyweight division, although fly is very good and maybe a little bit underrated, but you know what I mean? This division is so good that I would love to see that rewarded at times. Now, I've argued against Leon Edwards at sometimes, but at a certain point in all divisions that needs to be done. Like, an Edwards needs a title fight. Okay, I think we would all agree with that. Or Ferguson at a time, but it doesn't seem to happen in lightweight. And I really think it's the one division it should happen with, especially with McGregor injured now and stuff, and that draw. I mean, the other guys, they're good draws. They're good fighters and they will draw people in to watch, but they're not that massive draw that needs to be put back in it. So that's one thing I would like to do, and that's why I kind of argued that Beneil Dariush should be the next guy. Like, the second Beneil Dariush beat Tony Ferguson, everyone was saying he is the next guy. Everyone was saying he needs to fight for the title next. Let's do it. He'd fight the winner of Poirier versus Oliveira, whatever the situation was at the moment. We all said it. And then we forgot, Justin Gaethje had a fight. He had a great fight of the year, arguably. And he was the next guy propelled. But why can't Justin Gaethje get another fight against someone else and then have Dariush fight? Why can't Justin Gaethje fight Makhachev and the winner of that fights for the title? Like, I don't know. That one baffles me a little bit. And it's a very personal thing. Like, and from the rankings point of view, and not even the rankings point of view, but the wins point of view, and what he's done to deserve a point of view. I'm normally in most divisions on the other side of this. I'm normally on, Gaethje versus Oliveira would be a really, really fun fight. Let me see that. And if it happens, I've no problem. I'll absolutely watch it. I think Dariush versus Oliveira would be a really, really fun fight too. And I really want to see that happen. So that's another plus point for that. But I don't know. It's one thing I've thought of lightweight for a while, especially kind of with McGregor out of the discussion, because we all have to kind of adjust the discussion when McGregor's in it because of money, and we all know that, whether we like it or whether we hate it, but we have to make that adjustment. And maybe we'll talk about maybe having to make that adjustment again in a second. But yeah, that's one thing I would like to see. But what we do have is Beneil Dariush versus Islam Makhachev coming up next. So as I mentioned with Dariush, he's won those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights in a row, beat Tony Ferguson. Makhachev 21-1, lost to Adriana Martinez in his second UFC fight back in 2015, and has won all his fights since then. Is my maths any good? 9 fights in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He's beaten Wade, Lintz, Tebow, something which his compatriot Khabib Nurmagomedov couldn't do. Cage and Johnson, Saryukin, Davy Ramas, Drew Dober, Moises and Hooker. So right up there, I would put that even above maybe where Dariush is at the moment. But Dariush had that spot first, He kind of had it first. Makhachev could have overtaken him, and, he'd probably deserve that too. Beating Hooker is a big, big win, although I think beating Ferguson is a little bit bigger of a kind of a win just from a name value, but they're very much an even keel. And look, when I said I asked for 2 of the best in the world to fight, to get an opportunity to fight for the title, this is what I'm being given. I just think it's the wrong 2 kind of, and the wrong one to be picked to be the next title challenger I think is the wrong one as well. But that's maybe neither here nor there. But what we do have in this is a weird thing, right? Because I'll get to the McGregor thing now maybe in a second, because When I talked about just there, 2 people, and let me just look at the rankings again just to make sure. Number 3, Beneil Dariush. Number 4, Islam Makhachev. The winner of that should be fighting for the title. We all agree with that? I assume, everyone roaring at the screen here at me, watch it. I assume we all think the winner of that should be fighting for the title next. But will they? Will they? What's going to happen? We'll talk about what fight happens next, but what's going to happen with Conor McGregor? Like, is he, and I have another video, I don't know if it's up before or after this, but I would love to see him fighting Tony Ferguson. I'll talk about that in a second again, maybe. But is he going to waltz back in and fight for the title? And I argued in that video, and you can watch it, that McGregor, it might not be the best thing in the world for him, even if it is, getting gifted the title shot. He doesn't want that gift himself. It's like, Call at Christmas. But is that going to derail the meritocracy of this division even further in terms of Dariush versus Makhachev? Because we all know, listen to this, they're not the sexiest names in the world, right? Those are not the two best known guys in the world. If they could give a title fight to Gaethje, Poirier, Ferguson, McGregor over all of them, they would. We all know that. We all know the way the world works in the UFC and in MMA in general, and maybe just the UFC. I know I was actually looking at Bellator, and maybe it's not the case in Bellator, but it is the case in the UFC. So it's a fight that's on the precipice of meaning a lot. And it means a lot because it's a big win, and it's a big win over someone who is ranked right alongside you. But they could be overtaken as well. It's just the reality of the UFC. But that is the fight we need to be looking at. It's in the February, March next year. Oliveira just fought, so he probably won't be fighting till just after that. But I also think it's kind of bad timing, because if that happens, right, February, March, Oliveira fights maybe in May or in International Fight Week or a little bit after that. That'll be 2 months, 3 months before everyone will have forgotten about it. What if McGregor fights around International Fight Week as well and wins? Do you know what people want to do that with that? They won't forget that. I'll tell you that for a fact. What if Poirier gets a big win? What if Poirier fights McGregor and gets a big win? People won't forget that. What if Michael Chandler fights McGregor and gets a big win? People won't forget about that. It is a really, really odd situation we find ourselves in that division. And I've come on here to say maybe what should happen, what I would like to see happen, and what logic I would like to bring to it. But my prediction would probably be there will be very little logic brought in this division in 2022, if we're being honest about it. It's an absolutely crazy division. So let's move on from the top four for a second. Right, so we're going to have, to take Poirier out of that, obviously, we're going to have Oliveira versus Gaethje. I think everyone kind of agrees with that now. Great fight. Not the one I would make per se, but it looks like the fight it's going to happen. Justin Gaethje just had that great win over Michael Chandler, obviously back in November. Lost to Habib October before that, which I think is the weird part of it. Ferguson, Cerrone, Barboza, Vic before that, and he lost to Poirier and Alvarez before that as well. So, he's lost 3 of what he's last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights. If you look at the other people's records in the UFC, it doesn't stack up. He's beaten some very good people. What are his best wins there, though? Ferguson and Chandler. Chandler is probably the best win of all of these guys coming up, apart from McGregor, I suppose. But it's not that standout compared to those in terms of names, in terms of performances, in terms of fights, absolutely. But anyway, I will digress from that for a second. So that fight looks like it's going to happen. And that's a really, really fun fight, a really great title fight. And when it happens, I won't be complaining about it, even if I do complain about it right now. Makhachev versus Dariush happens. Who'll win that? We can discuss that at the time. I'm a big fan of Beneil Dariush's ability. I think he's really, really good. I have him on Team Sheehan for the last few years. If you were to ask me who I pick it at right now, I would pick Makhachev. I think, although I was looking the other day and I picked Poirier maybe 3 weeks before the fight, and in on my weekly picks, I gave Oliveira, and I was very strong on Oliveira, so I can change my mind. My official pick will be coming on fight week. But as of now, I think that is the situation. So the top 4 there is kind of taken care of, with Poirier kind of taken out of it. Then after that, it's a little bit different. So we have Poirier, Chandler, Dos Anjos, Ferguson, and McGregor. As I said, I did a video about Conor McGregor, so maybe I'll leave that, but I'll just say what I think should happen with McGregor. He's ranked number 9, but really number 8 because Hooker's gone. And Tony Ferguson's ranked number 7. As I said, I fleshed it out a little bit more, but I think that's the fight to make. That's a fight between two guys at the same kind of ebb in their career. McGregor has lost his last 2 in a row to Dustin Poirier. Beat Donald Cerrone before that, so he's had 3 fights since the start of 2020. 2-1. 1 and 2 in those since the start of 2020. Ferguson has also had 3 fights and gone 0-3. So there isn't that much of a difference between them. Dariush, Oliveira and Gaethje. Tony Ferguson has lost that. They're rivals down through the years. That fight makes a lot of sense. And I think as well, from Conor McGregor's point of view, he needs a fight like that to get him back in there. If he goes in and fights Oliveira after a broken leg, after, okay, he fought 3 times in the space of 18 months-ish. But before that, it was 2 years off. Before that, again, it was another 2 years off. That's just too much. McGregor needs a Tony Ferguson style fight because, let's be honest, he needs a name. He needs someone he can headline against. And he needs someone he has a rivalry with down through the years. And that Tony Ferguson fulfills all of them. And you know what? I don't think there's actually anyone else who fulfills all of them. That's a kind of a winnable fight. Maybe Nate Diaz. But the Diaz and Poirier fights are both kind of back pocket fights. I think the second Poirier lost, I think the McGregor and Poirier fight became less likely because the only reason for McGregor to come back from the injury and take a harder fight is if the title is up for grabs. No, it's not. If he was to win, maybe, win against Ferguson or whatever it might be, or win his next fight, then the Poirier fight was there. If he was to go in and win his next fight, maybe fight for a title then and lose that, the Poirier fight's still there. Just like the Nate Diaz fight's still there and will always be there because those trilogies or quadrologies, as the Poirier one is after the way it ended, are always going to be there for him. And I think McGregor's smart and I think he realises that. So I think the Ferguson versus McGregor fight is the one to make and is the one to look at when you're coming up the next year. But obviously I'll have more on that on the other video as well. And then what does that leave us with? That leaves us with Poirier, Chandler and Dos Anjos. And Dos Anjos, look, Poirier just lost, so I was going to call Dos Anjos a bit of the forgotten man, but Poirier will be a forgotten man for a while until Poirier says what he wants to do. Michael Chandler and Poirier, someone suggested it the other day, and they haven't fought before. Obviously, Chandler's only after coming over from the UFC. He's had 1, 2, 3 fights in the UFC, Hooker, Oliveira and Gaethje. That fight makes a lot of sense, I think. I also think Dos Anjos versus Chandler makes a lot of sense. So one of those guys is kind of going to be left out. And if I was the betting man, I would probably bet on all the matches I said they're actually happening. I think McGregor will fight Ferguson. I think, the Makhachev fight against Dariush is already made. I think Oliveira will fight Gaethje. So there's 3 to go into 2. And the problem with that, right, let's say Dos Anjos is the odd man out. And I have a feeling it will be Dos Anjos versus Chandler and Poirier might wait out. But let's say Poirier fights Chandler and Dos Anjos is the man left out. Who's he going to fight? Because is he going to fight Gregor Gillespie or Fiziev or Fahey or Saryukin or Riddell or Alvarez, one of them in the rankings? Or is maybe, an Nate Diaz fight going to happen? Or is someone going to come up from 145? It just feels like there are many big fights. Fight Gaethje, big fight. Fight Poirier, big fight. Fight Makhachev, big fight. Fight Dariush, he's ranked number 3, big fight. Fight Ferguson even, okay, they fought before, but big fight. Fight McGregor, big fight. But the fact that there's an even number of guys there, it's going to leave one of them out, and it's going to leave one of them searching for a fight. And that's a tough situation to be in. So if you are a Dos Anjos, if you are maybe even a Chandler, I think you have to jump at one of those opportunities and take it, because this is a division as well you quickly get left behind. You will very, very quickly get left behind. Justin Gaethje's done a phenomenal job of kind of talking himself back into the title picture, even just straight after the Nurmagomedov embarrassment. He was talking himself right back into the picture, and he did a great job of it. I wasn't buying it for most of the time, even though I love Justin Gaethje. I think he's a great fighter. But I feel like Poirier isn't that sort of guy. He won't do that. He'll try to fight his way back if he does come back. But it's going to be interesting how they match make that division over the next while. But you know what? We have some phenomenal fights coming up, and we have some excitement. It is a division for a while that was kind of held up a bit. Khabib fought once every 8 months. McGregor was out injured. He was holding up the belt for a while. we had that McGregor-Habib stuff like that, and Habib vacated. And look, we've had some great times over the last while. All those fights I mentioned there, whether they're wins or losses for, wins for one side, losses for the other side. We had some great fights from Gaethje and Chandler to Poirier and Oliveira to, Oliveira winning the title against Chandler, and Oliveira versus Ferguson, putting himself right in that mix. We've had some great fights, but I think the fights we're going to have in 2022 are going to be incredible. Like, I'll mention them again. Gaethje versus Oliveira. What a fight that could be. Like Dariush versus Makhachev. Look, it might not be a barn burner, might not be the best fight in the world, but can Dariush cause Makhachev problems? Can he beat him? Can he land those big shots? Is his jiu-jitsu good enough for the wrestling of Makhachev? Can he stop the takedown? That's a very intriguing fight. The return of Conor McGregor. Do I need to say any more? It's going to be insane. Is he going to return at 155? Is he going to return at 170? We don't know. Tony Ferguson, can he recapture it? Can he recapture what he once was? Who knows? Michael Chandler, can he bounce back? Dos Anjos, he's looked good over the last while. Dos Anjos has beaten Paul Felder. Okay, he lost to Chiesa and Edwards in a welterweight before that, but coming back down and winning that close fight with Paul Felder. Will Paul Felder come back? He was talking about coming back. Maybe he's a guy that comes back into that division and has a fight. McGregor versus Felder is a fight people have talked about before. McGregor kind of half called him out after one of his fights. Is that a fight that could happen? Maybe Dos Anjos will try to get the rematch of the fight he lost against Tony Ferguson. There's lots of permutations here, and you know what? All of them are really, really fun. Let me know in the comment section over on Twitter at @GMBA what lightweight fights you would like to see next year. Maybe an outside of the box one. Also, and I leave it at this, will Habib come back? Will he come back? Could you... And let me just paint this picture for you. And I've said this before. I think it was over at Submission Radio one time. Imagine if McGregor comes back, right? And he wins the title. Whether it's coming back against Oliveira in the first fight and beating him, okay, unlikely. Whether it's come back fighting Ferguson, fighting, Gaethje, fighting Poirier, whoever it might be, beats them, then wins the title, and at this time next year, he's the champion. Will Habib come back then? Will he come back? Like, could Habib stand it to see McGregor with his belt over his shoulder say, oh, that looks good? Could he stand that? Could he stand that? I don't think he could, personally, and I think... If McGregor was to do that, and it's a big if, okay, I know it. I think it probably won't happen if I was to call it. Don't call me biased here or anything. But I could see Habib coming back. And, even now over the last couple of weeks, or over the last couple of months, and especially over the last couple of weeks with Oliveira winning that belt, everyone's saying, like, Oliveira's better than Habib, Oliveira is what everyone thought Tony Ferguson was. Great striker, fantastic jiu-jitsu. The guy to beat Habib. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily. But are people saying that? Yes. Are people are saying he is a really, really tough matchup for Habib. Do you know who won't like that? Habib Nurmagomedov. Will he come back? Will we see him fighting again? For one, I would love to see it. And I hope he comes back. He's young enough, he's fit enough, he's good enough to do it again. And I would love to see it. So the lightweight division in 2022 is going to be exciting, whatever happens. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'll leave it there. Thanks to everyone for listening. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com. And I'll see you all next time.